Comic Collectors Guild members, welcome again to another episode of Come Together where we spotlight Guild membership. And today we have Nadya Martinez from Brooklyn, New York, who's also known on Instagram as the GothamGeekGirl. Hi Nadya, how are you?
Good, how are you?
You are at the epicenter of this entire pandemic. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you're living your life right now and what it's like in the city?
It's a little weird. Most of my family lives near me, and it's weird, like, not seeing them. I'll FaceTime my family every day. Sometimes I'll take a walk and, like, I'll meet my mom at the park, but, like, from a distance. So it's like, even though I kind of see her, it's sad. Like, I can't hug my mom. I can't hug my sister. Like, I haven't seen my dad. Like, it's really weird.
That sounds pretty harsh. How is the city dealing with everything right now? I imagine it's probably pretty strange. New York City is usually a pretty bustling place and nobody's on the streets, nobody's going anywhere. Is that what it's like?
Yeah, it's like I'll go out maybe every like 3 days or 4 days, like to pick up a couple groceries. And like I'll have my mask and a bunch of gloves with me, and like I'll take a walk at the park just to get like a little exercise. You'll see like some people out, but it's definitely strange. And like I've been seeing like a lot of pictures like photographers take like in the city, and it's like the city that never sleeps. Like to see it like this, it's like weird. But hanging in, lots of PlayStation.
Lots of PlayStation, lots of Netflix.
Oh yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for agreeing to being interviewed today. And to start off, I'm really interested in your personal collector's journey. I've done a little bit of research on you on your Instagram, and I know that you're a writer and a cosplayer, and we're going to get to those things. But could you tell us a little bit about how you got started in this whole crazy hobby?
Yeah. So I've always been into geek culture. I have a lot of older guy cousins. So as a kid hanging out with my cousins, like we'd play Nintendo and like G.I. Joe and action figures. And that really got me like into like that whole world. And then I was always like a Batman animated series fan. And I always like to draw. And then like as I got older, I started going to Comic-Con, and that was like the I don't know, like the coolest thing I've ever seen. And like back in those days, it was really easy to like meet with the creators. So like I would always have like, I even brought my portfolio. This is way back in the day when you could bring your portfolio with you. So like that was really cool.
So your portfolio, is it art? Because I know you're also a writer.
I was an art student. I went to fashion high school, and then I went to FIT for illustration. At one point, I did want to be a comic artist. So that was pretty cool, having a chance like to bring your portfolio out and like get advice and critiques. I still like to draw, but more for myself now. And I realized I really like to meet people. And at cons, I started interviewing my friends and other creators that I met, and started my website. And I write for another platform. So I just love anything like geek related.
When did you start buying your first comic books, like seriously?
When I was younger, I was really into a lot of like Dark Horse and of course like Marvel, but I was like a big Michael Turner fan, so like Witchblade, I read a lot of Witchblade. That kind of got me more into collecting my Michael Turner stuff. And then as I got older, I became more and more obsessed with like DC, and I was like, I have to have everything. So mostly DC now.
So it's interesting you're a Witchblade fan. Of course, that came out in the early 90s. It was really big then. Have you read any of the new Witchblade series from Image?
Not really. She's like blonde now, right? They changed her character. I honestly haven't read the new one. I'll check it out one day. Not to say I won't read it, but it didn't feel the same.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it. The new Witchblade is excellent. It's got much more of a feminist bent to it. It's not so much scantily clad women with armor on. It's a little bit more female positive. It's written by Caitlin Kittredge. She does an excellent job on it. I really enjoyed it a lot.
All right, I'll check it out.
So your comic collecting clearly led into other things. For example, I already mentioned you do writing about the subject of comics. You do cosplay at conventions. Let's start with your writing. Tell us about what kind of subject matter you write about, what periodicals, websites, podcasts, including your own, because we want to make sure that you get all the appropriate hype. Go ahead and talk about that aspect.
Sure. So I write about all things geek, gaming, comics, a big focus on indie comics, movies, cartoons. Obviously, movies are a huge part right now, so sometimes I'll do reviews. But my main focus is comics. I also write for a platform called Geek HQ, which I've been writing for maybe 5 years now. And I started my own website around the same time. And I like to focus on creators and their independent series. So I go to a lot of conventions, like aside from New York Con, a lot of smaller conventions like Woman in Comics, ChemFest, Schaumburg Fest, there's so many, BAM. And at these events, I'll see a lot of my friends, whether it's creators I know already or new creators, and I like to meet with them and discuss their series, check out their comic, and help get their comics out.
Can you tell our audience about some of these smaller independent comics? Because my guess is a lot of them might not know them. There's the big two with Marvel and DC, and of course, some of the more up and coming indies like Image and Boom and Dynamite and those publishing houses. Tell us about some of the ones that you've read and that you write about.
Sure. So on my website now, I actually just did a review for Killer Comics, Crucifix Executioner. It's very dark. I kind of compare it to like Hellraiser mixed with like Dexter, Punisher. It's a great story of like vengeance, slasher, and these guys were cinematographers. So like reading their comic, like you really see like their vision. So that's highly recommended. Also there is, let's see, some other reviews I've done. It's Nana. It's a mythological horror story based on the spider god Anansi. So it's focused on his son. So that was a really cool series. My friend Greg, he's great. He's a writer. That's a series I would check out. There's also Okamis, which is a sci-fi action comic. He's like a shapeshifter. That is actually my friend Taylor. We interned at Marvel together like 10 years ago. So like I'm so proud of him. Like now he has his own series out, his own publication he draws and writes. So I really try to help focus on these guys and get their brand out.
So that's the writing aspect of your personality. Now let's talk about your cosplay. I've looked at your Instagram and I see you do a lot of different types of characters. Can you tell me what your three current favorites are?
Definitely Harley Quinn. I always have so much fun doing Harley because I like to get in character. So she's one of my favorites.
You have the voice for it, I'll bet.
Oh yeah. I love doing Harley. She's my favorite. I'm a huge DC fan, so I've done Harley Quinn, Zatanna, Catwoman. I want to do more versions of Catwoman as well. She's one of my favorites. Have a lot of fun doing her. I like to do like action-y stuff, so she's so much fun to shoot. And Celine from Underworld. That's like one of my ultimate favorite characters. I had so much fun cosplaying her.
And do you have any previews of cosplays that you are going to do in the future for us?
Trying to see what I can work with what I have now. I did a closet cosplay like a couple weeks ago. Resident Evil 3 came out. So I did a closet cosplay of Jill Valentine. So I need to see what materials I have to get together to do like an actual cosplay, but she's totally on my list. I want to do another version of Elektra, and I would plan to do X-23 at some point.
And so when you do costumes, do you buy costumes or do you make your own or a mixture of both?
I make my own. I would say kind of a mixture of both. Like I'll buy some pieces like from vintage shops. Maybe get like a pair of like old leather pants or something like that, and I'll like sew stuff together. Now I started working with Werbla and Ava Foam, so I'm starting to try to build and like learn. So more implementing my own stuff now.
And how about props? Because one of the things I've noticed going to cons is that costumes are nice and people can buy a pretty accurate costume, but it's always the props that either makes or breaks the actual cosplay, in my opinion. How do you go about building your props, or do you purchase them?
It depends also like which convention you're at, if you're allowed to have props or if I'm shooting a cosplay, if I can bring what I've done in the past is I've spray painted toy guns. And I'll just make sure like that there's an orange tip to be safe. But now I started doing more 3D printing. So I'll have one of my friends, he's a great printer, print for me, and then I'll spray paint or hand paint some of my props. One of the props he did for me was for my Harley Who Laughs.
Wow.
So this one's actually a 3D print, so it's lightweight, and then I just painted it.
What would the most complicated cosplay that you've done so far be?
Definitely the Harley Who Laughs, because she was my first build, so I was learning how to do everything on my own and like watching tutorials, asking some of my cosplay friends. Like one of my friends, he does an amazing Joker and he makes all his own props. So I was like constantly texting and calling, like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do this? I'm like hot gluing and like using spikes, and I'm being crazy wearing my spray paint mask on my fire escape and like using a heat gun and like all this crazy stuff. And then for her, I had to do body paint. Uh, yeah, the spikes, the Werbla. So she was definitely my most intense cosplay so far.
Okay, so one of the things we ask all of our interviewing members to do is to show us three pieces of your collection that mean the most to you, they're the most valuable to you, they have some deeper meaning. Can you share yours, please?
So I'd say my first is my Michael Turner collection because, like I said, he was my biggest influence, whether it be in my artwork or in comics. He's my biggest influence. So I have a ton of prints, comics, figures, mystery boxes. I even made a sculpture based on one of his Aspen posters for school when I was in school. I made like a whole sculpture. Um, and then lots of covers, like any cover he did I would pick it up, like even if I didn't read it I was like, oh, it's Michael Turner, picking it up, anything with Michael on it, pick it up. So that's probably my top, Michael Turner.
What about your second piece?
I'd say also my Batman Arkham Origins. I have the Joker LED statue. It's pretty amazing, like actually like lights up, the details are crazy, because that was one of my favorite like video games. So I got the special collector's edition. So I love that figure.
And the last?
My last would be my Louis Royo Harley Quinn. I actually have a story to that one. I got a figure at, I think it was my first San Diego Comic Con. So that was probably back in like 2015, maybe. I think 2015. I saw a beautiful Harley Quinn figure from Yamato Toys. And I was like, oh my God, this is so pretty. I got to pick it up. And then I saw it was Louis Royo. And like, I grew up a huge Louis Royo fan. He does a lot of fantasy work. So I hadn't even like knew he would draw a Harley. And then I was like, oh my God, this is a Louis Royo like figure. I'm going to get it now. Like, I'll take it. And then like, I look over and like Louis Royo sitting like right there. And I was like, holy crap. Like, oh my God. So I was like, one of my best moments to like San Diego. Like one of my favorite artists was like right there. He signed it for me. We took pictures. We spoke after his panel. Like he was the coolest dude.
As a cosplayer, this question is probably obvious, but if you could say which one of these characters you relate to the most personally, which would it be and why?
Minus the like psychopath part, Harley Quinn, because I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, Pennsylvania, and she's just so much fun to do. Like I literally grew up with this character. Like huge fan of Bruce Timm. Growing up, I would watch the cartoon and then just have so much fun. Like she sounded like me, so it was just like fun.
How old were you when Batman the Animated Series came out?
I believe I was 5.
Oh God, I feel old.
So I was probably too young to watch, but I was watching anyway.
Hey, hey, you got to learn your lessons somewhere. What did you think of Margot Robbie's performance? I feel like
So ironically, when she was first cast, I don't know. I was like, I don't know. I was like, I thought she was like too sexy. Um, but in her movie now, The Birds of Prey, like I was one of the first people that wasn't gonna watch it because I was like, that's not Birds of Prey. What are they doing? And then I saw it, and like I actually fell in love with it, and I thought she was fantastic. Like she did a great job. I liked her more in this than Suicide Squad. I think they really let her be Harley.
so. How do you account for the poor reviews and the poor reception of Birds of Prey?
I feel bad. I think it was a more of a marketing thing. Maybe if they didn't push it as a Birds of Prey movie at first so much, people would have gave it more of a chance. Because like I said, like I was one of the first people that was like, "What is that? That's not Birds of Prey. Where's Oracle? Like this is just weird. Why is like Harley? It's only Harley and friends." And then I saw it and I was like, "Whoa! Like I see what they were doing. Like it was a good movie."
1 second. You want to guest star with me? Come on, come on, come on. All right. This is Stitch.
Oh, Stitch?
He was scratching at the door during the last question. My daughters are doing their homework, and my wife is working, so he needs attention.
Company. Oh.
All right, so Nadia, well, we just talked about Birds of Prey, the movie. Do you have a favorite comic-related movie or TV show?
Favorite comic movie ever is The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan. I think that was just an overall like beautiful movie. Uh, period. Like not even just comic book standards. I think Christopher Nolan took it to a whole nother level, and he saved the comic book genre of movies. So definitely The Dark Knight. And then for TV show, the Marvel Netflix, The Punisher, and Daredevil. I think Daredevil is my first favorite because all 3 seasons were like phenomenal. I love Daredevil, and I really hope Charlie can come back.
Now, the Electra cosplay you want to do isn't the one from the Netflix series. You want to do the comic book one, correct?
So I've already done an Electra before, which is actually very similar to the one from this series, but it was a J. Scott Campbell version. So it was pretty close. It was like black with like the red, and then just her hair in a ponytail. So it was pretty close. I actually took a photo with him at a convention. He was really excited to see that I did his version. But I want to do more of a comic version coming up, and I want to do the white version.
Like the Frank Miller version.
Yeah.
OG. All right, so clearly you're very involved in geekdom, writing, cosplay, collecting. Do you have any non-comic related hobbies or things that are important to you that you like to share?
I love music. Secret, well, I don't know, because it was a while ago, but like a dream of mine when I was younger was to be a DJ. um, so I just love music, and I'll always try to find music. I used to be really good at finding like a lot of artists before they became big. But I like a lot of older genres of music. Ironically, I feel like I'm in the wrong generation or time, if that makes sense. Because I have more fun like listening to like my parents' generation or like even like music that I grew up with than like what's out now. So I don't know if being a DJ would work, but
So I'm going to make an assumption here that I'm probably your parents' age, so that'd be what, the 80s and the 90s?
no, like my parents grew me up on like Motown. I love Motown. I love like Temptations and like Diana Ross and like even like Marvin Gaye and then like so 50s, 60s, 70s. And then like my music like favorite is 90s. I'm obsessed with the 90s, like rock, pop, hip hop, R&B, everything from the 90s.
Favorite 90s band?
Ooh, that's tough. Oh man, that's tough. Um, Deftones or Portishead count? Yeah, maybe Deftones or Portishead. I saw Massive Attack a few months ago, and that was like the best concert.
All right, so from an outsider's point of view, someone might think that the geek and comic collector community is pretty male dominant. And I can see why they would think that, but as a female who's doing a lot in this community, I'm very interested in your opinions about this issue. Can you just talk about that?
Yeah. So growing up, I was like a real tomboy. I would always like play basketball with my dad and like hang out with my cousins and like watch cartoons, play manhunt, like play in the dirt, um, play like we thought we were the Mighty Ducks. We would like dress up and like play hockey in the street and like I'd always play video games. Like as a kid, I played Nintendo at my grandma's. Um, and yeah, I guess I just always grew up like hanging out with like a lot of like male friends as a kid too. So I just kind of like got into that. As I got older, I made more female friends that were into it too. And it was like, okay, it's cool like to be like this because like at some point it was like, oh, like you're too much like a guy, like you're too much like a dude and like be like made fun of or like for like, being into those things. And then it's like as you get older, you just become comfortable with who you are. And I was like, I don't care. Like I like this stuff whether you like it or not. And then I made more female friends that are into it too. So it's like, oh, cool. Like we can geek out on this together. And like I made like a lot more female friends now that actually like work in the industry. So that's really cool too. But yeah, I think they definitely need more females into it, but that are truly into it for like the right reasons. Because like I said before too, like you had a lot of people that would like to make fun of you, but now it's the cool thing. So it's like if they're really into it for the right reasons, then I'm all about it.
When you do your cosplay, do you feel objectified or anything like that when you're there by any of the fans that might approach you?
That can definitely happen in the cosplay community. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that happens a lot. Um, but I try to like not to put judgment on anybody. But like I always try to keep my stuff like classy and conservative. So even if I'm not completely comic accurate by not showing some things, um, that's my preference. So I'm not gonna hold judgment on other people that do. But that definitely happens in the community a lot.
Have you had any problems with any male collectors in particular who maybe are a little bit too aggressive or um, you know running in the same circles as you run in? Do you run into people who are just don't get the fact that this is just fun?
Yeah, you'll see that on social media a lot too. Try to avoid like the toxic and like negative and trolls and all that because you'll have people that'll say like fresh comments or like that's not correct or like that's not how you're supposed to do that or like just people being like fresh or whatever and like not appropriate. That definitely happens.
Yeah, I think one of the sadder things I've seen was on social media. Of course, it was, and this woman did a just a spectacular cosplay of Storm from the X-Men, but she was a much more robust woman. Still, the costume was amazing. She looked gorgeous in it. It really you know picked her up and made her look very regal. And the comment section, I mean, never go to the comment section. It's where hope goes to die. But they were just terrible to her, just awful. And all I could think was, here's a person who clearly enjoys something enough to put this amazing costume together and wear it and be proud, and all people could do was ridicule her, and it was just awful. I just felt incredibly bad about her, bad for her, and even took a couple of shots at myself and took fire for like trying to put these guys in their place. But I can imagine, no matter what, if you're a female, you're gonna run into this kind of problem. Certainly more than the guys do.
Yeah, I hate saying that honestly because cosplay is supposed to be about having fun and just being a character that you enjoy. And a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into their cosplay. And I don't care how much of a model you look like this person actually is a crafter and they made their work. And like, that's what it's supposed to be about, like having fun. It doesn't matter how big you are, how short you are, how tall you are, the color of your skin. Like if you want to be a character, you can be that character. And like some people will, like you said in the comments, be like, well, Harley Quinn's not supposed to be black. Storm's not supposed to be blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, she's not supposed to be fat. Like, oh, you don't look like her. I'm not going to like feed into it, but sometimes you'll be like, hey, cosplay is not about being a lookalike. Like I actually made my costume. Like I took a lot of time and like, or like this girl is beautiful and like she put a lot of dedication into her work. Like we don't care what you think. Like you'll see it all the time. I had a friend like get in a fight with a guy about her wig, and she was like, can you buy a $500 wig for me? Like it's ridiculous.
I'm glad that you said that you make your own costumes because I think that that's important. I think a lot of people who get into cosplay, um, they find it intimidating because a lot of the more quote unquote professional cosplayers' costumes look so amazing and they're like, oh, there's no way I could do that. But I think cosplay is also about creativity.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be about. It's what you put into it. It shouldn't be, like I said, like about who has what, who can afford what, who looks like what. It's really what you put into it, and like the time and the effort and the experiences and growing with it. Like I said, like starting from scratch to build your own cosplay, like that's an amazing feeling. Like even if it comes out like crap, like part of my stuff like fell apart, a lot of my spikes fell out, but the fact that I made it from scratch myself, like every detail myself, that made me feel good. And I was like, I know I can do it, so I can just keep growing and keep learning. And that's what it's about. You got to learn.
Okay, Nadia, I really appreciate your opinion about all of that subject, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to tell us any more about anything you have coming up, um, groups that you'd like to highlight, anything of that nature.
Sure. Well, sadly, no San Diego Comic Con this year. Hoping New York Comic Con still happens. I also do like a hero con with some of my friends where we dress up like at a school convention. So it's really sad that we're not going to be able to do that this year. Like hang out with the kids and stuff, because that's part of cosplay too. Just being there for the kids and getting in character and having fun and lifting their spirits. So I've seen some cosplayers do that now virtually. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully, after all this craziness, we can get back out there and start getting to more cons. But yeah, you can follow me on GothamGeekGirl.com, on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook.
And do you have any articles or anything that is coming out soon?
Right now I am trying to work on something with one of my geek girlfriends. That we started talking last night about how like I'm suffering from really bad insomnia right now. Actually, I get maybe 4 hours of sleep a day, and I see the sunrise and the birds before I fall asleep, so it's bad. But me and her were talking about trying to put something together to help people maybe like lift their spirits, to try to find ways we can help each other, because I feel like I've become too reliant on social media, and it's like a catch 22. Like it's something we enjoy, we want to be productive, but at the same time I feel like I'm killing my brain cells and I'm not being productive. So it's like something that we were saying we're both suffering with right now, like trying to be productive in this craziness, but also like putting down the social media for a little bit. So we're going to try to work on a little content in that subject. Hopefully it'll help. um, and then I kind of want to put together maybe some more articles for like things people can do during this time.
Sounds great. Well, we look forward to it, and if any of that comes to the light of day, I hope you'll let us know so we can make sure we get you some traffic.
Awesome.
Well, Nadia Martinez, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for being a guest on Come Together. And we will speak to you again soon, I hope.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me.
Have a good day. Stay safe.
You too.
And that's a wrap for Come Together, the show that spotlights membership for the Comic Collectors Guild. If you would like to be spotlighted for our show, please send me a message in my DMs on Instagram at Comics Addicts. You can also contact our administration. Their handles will be at the end of the video. The Comics Collectors Guild is an open forum for all collectors and fandoms. Regardless of who you are and what you love, you are welcome to join for free. Just contact one of our administrators for details. It doesn't matter if you are a lover of cosplay or if you're an artist, writer, inker. If you love Doctor Who, manga, Lord of the Rings, anime, all are welcome to join. Please consider subscribing, leave us a like or a comment down below, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, so the photographer tells us, you gotta come back, you have to come back. I didn't know why until I turn around and I see Chevy Chase knocked out sleeping. It looked like he was snoring. So I look over and we're trying to take the same positions that we took the first picture. As we're walking back, Chevy Chase is still sleeping. There's wires for the photographer. I trip over the wire and both hands go right into Chevy Chase's head. And the dude wakes up and he yells, "I'm up, I'm up." And Micah Anthony Hall's laughing, the wife is laughing. My wife is like nervous. She's like, "Oh my God, you just hit Chevy Chase."